The United States, and only the United States, is capable of destroying Iran's key nuclear facility called Fordow I. Judging by Trump's statements and the deployment of heavy American bombers to the Middle East region, it seems that the United States is preparing for exactly that. The fact is that Israeli aircraft and the missiles available to the Israeli army are not capable of penetrating such a deeply protected facility. But the United States has everything needed for a massive strike, both bombers and bunker-busting bombs. In this episode, we'll discuss in detail what is known about the Fordow nuclear facility in Iran. Why does the outcome of the war between Iran and Israel depend specifically on its destruction? And is Trump, who has called on Iran to surrender, really ready to enter this war? I'm Alexei Pechi. It's June 17th. Let's go through this step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, leave a like, write any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in, and I also share my analytical notes there. So 5 tunnels running through a mountain range, a large supporting structure, and a wide security perimeter. That's all you can see in recent satellite images of the mysterious Iranian Fordow fuel enrichment plant. After the first series of strikes by Israeli aircraft, the images show that Israel only managed to strike the entrances to the massive underground infrastructure, but the facility is still very, very far from being destroyed. The secret, heavily guarded complex built near the holy city of Qom gives rise to speculation about its true nature and size. Since it was first reported to the public in 2009, most of what we know about this facility comes from Iranian documents stolen many years ago by Israeli intelligence. Its main halls are located 80 to 90 meters underground, which makes them protected from any known Israeli air bombs, making the destruction of this facility from the air almost impossible, at least for the Israel Defense Forces. While the Iranian leadership is recovering from a series of devastating Israeli strikes. Some analysts say that it is in Fordow that Iran could quickly reprocess its stockpiles of enriched uranium and rapidly create a nuclear bomb, because it understands that the regime could come to an end. In recent days, Israel has been striking this facility. However, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, so far it has either not wanted to or has not been able to damage this facility. There have been strikes, but significant damage has not been achieved so far. Tehran, for a long time, claimed that the goals of its nuclear program were purely peaceful, although Fordow has come under scrutiny regarding Iran's ambitions. The size and configuration of this facility are not compatible with a peaceful program, said then United States President Barack Obama, back in 2009 when he, together with then French President Nicolas Sarkozy and British Prime Minister Gordon Brown, revealed to the world the existence of the Fordow nuclear facility. Just a few days before Obama's statement, apparently knowing that Western agencies had learned about this facility, Iran informed the International Atomic Energy Agency of its intention to build a new fuel enrichment facility. However, construction at Fordow had been ongoing for many years by that point. Tehran rejected all accusations at the time, but condemnation even from Russia's ally and concern from China left it with little room to maneuver. It is known that the United States and its allies did not provide details about when construction of the Fordow facility began, but publicly available historical satellite images show work at the site as early as 2004. The photographs show 2 white square structures at the site where the tunnel entrances are located today. Based on this, we can infer that underground construction had already begun by then. The International Atomic Energy Agency states that it has additional photographs showing construction as early as 2002. Fordow is actually a project that began during what we call the Nuclear Weapons Development Program. In the early 2000s, the idea was that the Iranians would produce weapons-grade uranium at this facility, and they would obtain low-enriched uranium from the civilian nuclear program in Iran. In 2009, the large external support structure was already fully built, and at that time, earthworks were underway to create a ventilation shaft, which is crucial for air circulation in this facility. This shaft was later concealed and disguised, as later images also show. In a letter from October 2009, Tehran explained to the International Atomic Energy Agency that the decision to build the facility underground was made due to threats of military attacks on Iran. It was added that Fordow would serve as a backup option for the nearby plant in Natanz, which was claimed to be among the targets threatened by military attacks. At that time, Iran also informed the International Atomic Energy Agency that the facility could accommodate up to 3,000 centrifuges, which is quite a threatening message considering that all of this could be used to develop nuclear weapons. A few years later, it seemed that a solution had been found. The dangers posed by Fordow were largely eliminated as a result of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the so-called Iran nuclear deal, which required Iran to remove 2/3 of the centrifuges inside the facility, along with all nuclear materials, after any such activities were banned at the site. But the key point is 2/3, not all the centrifuges. Even in that agreement, Iran was promised the lifting of sanctions and economic prosperity in exchange for abandoning its nuclear program. But as you can see, Iran was still allowed to keep 1/3 of its centrifuges, which was already a ticking time bomb. After all, Iran never actually gave up on the idea of acquiring nuclear weapons. But even this breakthrough was gradually reversed when United States President Donald Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal in 2018. By that time, the nuclear regulator International Atomic Energy Agency reported that Iran was enriching uranium up to 60% at the underground nuclear facility in Fordow. That's exactly where about 1/3 of the existing centrifuges were left in 2015. Additional information about the facility was made public by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in 2018 after his country's intelligence services seized more than 55,000 documents from what Israel called Iran's nuclear archive. Among the documents were detailed blueprints of Fordow and information about its objectives, specifically to produce weapons-grade uranium as part of Iran's nuclear weapons program, at least for 1 or 2 nuclear warheads per year. And even back then, American and Israeli experts who worked with the Iranian documents stated that in fact, from the Iranian point of view, there was no inconsistency. They said that the documents clearly stated how Iran, regardless of whether there was a deal or not, was deliberately developing its very non-peaceful nuclear program, specifically at the Fordow facility. Interestingly, at that time, Iran claimed that the documents stolen by Israeli intelligence were all fake. But in the United States, after studying all 55,000 pages of documents, they concluded that it would be impossible to fabricate this, and all the facts in the documents are reflected on the ground, as they say. At that time, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called Netanyahu's revelations and comments childish and ridiculous. At that time, United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo stated that the United States had known about these materials for some time and considered the documents to be authentic. But why is it so difficult to destroy the Fordow nuclear facility? Recent International Atomic Energy Agency reports stated that Iran has increased its production of enriched uranium to 60% at the Fordow facility, where, according to experts and the International Atomic Energy Agency, there are currently 2,700 centrifuges installed. And now I will quote from the International Atomic Energy Agency report dated May 31st, 2025. The significant increase in production and accumulation of highly enriched uranium by Iran, the only non-nuclear weapon state producing such nuclear material, is a cause for serious concern. Therefore, it is obvious that one of the reasons for the increased tension was precisely the fact that Iran had no reason to enrich uranium to such a high degree, except to be able to take the next step and turn it into weapons-grade uranium. Such uranium is simply not used in any peaceful nuclear program at all. The uranium needed to produce nuclear fuel for peaceful reactors is enriched to a maximum of 5%, while Iran is enriching it to 60%. Moreover, the enrichment threshold from 60% to 90% is very small. 90% enrichment is the level needed to create a nuclear bomb. That's why Israel raised the alarm. Iran can very quickly turn this 60% uranium into weapons-grade material. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran can process its current stockpile of 60% enriched uranium into 233 kilograms of weapons-grade uranium in 3 weeks. At the Fordow fuel enrichment plant, that's enough to create 9 nuclear warheads. That's why Fordow is the main target of Israel's attempts to degrade and destroy Iran's nuclear program. But is this even feasible? And here's the key point. The United States of America is the only country that possesses the bomb necessary to strike Iran's Fordow nuclear facility. And most importantly, the United States is the only one that has both the bombs and the appropriate bombers to carry out this mission. We're talking about heavy B-2 bombers and the deep penetrating massive bomb known as the Guided Bomb Unit 57AB. Israel is currently asking the United States to use this weapon to destroy Fordow. Let's make it clear once again, destroying Fordow from the air will be nearly impossible for Israel and will require significant firepower and assistance from the United States. And here, some experts are already doubting that the American Guided Bomb Unit 57 bunker buster bombs can reach it because they only penetrate to a depth of about 60 meters while Fordow is about 80 meters deep. In addition to that, Guided Bomb Unit 57 bombs can only be delivered by United States Air Force B-2 stealth bombers, which Israel doesn't have, even if the United States provides them with the bombs themselves. Although, if there are several Guided Bomb Unit 57 bombs, and if they launch a massive attack on the target, there's a good chance they'll be able to penetrate inside the Fordow facility. But there's another option, which Israel apparently tried to implement. Israel could probably destroy the entrances to these tunnels and definitely destroy that very ventilation system. That is, if Israel destroys the tunnels and the power supply, it would take months before Fordow could really operate again. But still, this is only a temporary solution, and it should probably be combined with a political restructuring of Iran's system to ensure that the new authorities would not want to restore this Fordow nuclear facility at all. But it's also important to consider that despite its crucial role in Iran's nuclear program, Fordow is just one piece of the puzzle. Let me explain why. Even if the Fordow nuclear facility is destroyed, that's not the end. Because we don't really know how many nuclear facilities Iran actually has, how many centrifuges Iran possesses, or where else they might be hidden. Because in the latest International Atomic Energy Agency report, it was stated that several years ago the agency's mission found traces of nuclear material at least 3 more sites that at first glance have nothing to do with the nuclear program. Therefore, unfortunately, solving this issue is very, very complicated, and as we understand now, all the attention is of course focused on the Fordow facility. It's a key site, but destroying it alone will not completely solve the problem. That's why there's so much talk in Israel now about eliminating the entire Iranian leadership. Well, to be precise, the leadership of the Islamic Republic of Iran, specifically the Ayatollah regime. This is the key objective. That's why I'll leave it at that for now. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like.